If you continue to do that over and over and over and over again, what ends up happening is you're doing the same amount of work for less and less money. So over time, the profitability for the bankruptcy law firm just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Here's probably the biggest mistakes that bankruptcy law firms make when it comes down to pricing. And to be honest with you, this mistake kind of plays out in two ways. Some may see them as separate problems, but I tend to see them as kind of one problem with kind of two sides to it. One of the first ones that I would say is that when it comes down to setting pricing, a lot of times what will happen is bankruptcy firm will hear the situation that a person is in and they'll meet with the person and out of great compassion, like, okay, all right, we can help you through this situation that you're going through. And the first mistake that they make is they don't set a very clear scope of work for the case that they are supporting. And when you don't set a clear scope of work, what ends up happening is the client isn't very clear about what they are paying for. And the firm isn't very clear about what they're going to pay for. And a lot of times, what happens as your firm grows is the person who did the sales call may not be the person who is actually doing the casework. And what happens in those situations where the scope is not clear is that the client pays for a scope of work that the attorney is not fully aware of. So the attorney may be going above and beyond trying to help the client through all of this situation, doing work that the client never actually paid for. And what that ends up doing for the law firm is that the law firm ends up losing on profitability because people are doing more than what the client actually paid for. Now, the second part of this is a lot of times when working in bankruptcy, where let's say a person's going through a very traumatic or a very tough situation. And what the firm will do sometimes is out of compassion for that situation is they'll immediately begin to start discounting the services because the person will say, well, we're going through this tough time. Like we don't really have the money for this. And they'll just immediately start adding discounts to the services. Now, the challenge that I see with that is once you start discounting the service, what you're doing is you're slowly eating away at the profitability because you're still going to do the same amount of legal work that you would if they were paying full price. But now you're going to do the same amount of work for less money. And so here's what I recommend for any firm that I talk to is I say, what? I'm all in support of doing, pro bono work or in support of doing work at a discounted rate. But what you need to do is sit down and plan out, like give your level of charity some kind of budget to say, hey, we can only accept, 2 cases a month at a discounted rate, or hey, we can only accept 5 cases a month at a discounted rate. Once we get to that limit of 5, everybody else, we need to charge full price until we get to the next month. Because if you continue to allow yourself or your team to continue accepting cases at a discount rate, eventually what you'll learn is that your cash flow will be in trouble because you will be working really, really hard, not realizing that your bank account is dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. And so what I advise you to do is first, be very clear about the scope of work that you are providing to the client. Like be upfront. Like here is the price and here is what we are committing to do. And make sure that the legal team, the paralegal, the legal assistant, the associate that's going to work on that case knows what the scope of work is. And then number 2, if you are going to offer discounts, make sure you give yourself a budget that only X number of cases per month are allowed to have a discount. Once you reach that limit, that means we can't offer any more discounts unless there is a executive decision where the math has been done and it truly makes sense for us to do it. Because if you put your charity on a budget, what it allows you to do, it allows you to balance helping people who need it without actually killing the cash flow for your firm. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Bankruptcy Law Firm Finance Show. At the end of the day, we make finance less complicated so you can build a more profitable law firm. If this was helpful for you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and follow us for more great content.